So I'm Current Value, hello, and I'm a drum and bass musician for since '97, and I started off on Position Chrome and Don Q Records back in the days, and I've released stuff on there, and been a part of the anger management crew. Yeah, been booked for therapy sessions for quite a long time, and yeah, I've worked for Björk, done some remixes for her last album, like for the Biophilia album, Remix Series 1 and 4, and recently got signed to Blackout Recordings and Critical Music, and yeah, so you're going to hear more neuro sounds from me from now on, and I'm very happy to announce that because it's always something that I've loved to do. But yeah, so it wasn't the time yet. But now's the time for neuro for me, and I'm very happy to announce that. Today I'm going to show you how to produce sounds or synthesize sounds just using the operator from Ableton. And I'm going to play you a little song that I've done just using the editor, like one for the kick, one for the snare drum, one for, or two for two different like heads, like one's the main hi-hat and one's the off hi-hat, and a ride sound. That's what you see here in this instrument rack. As you can see here, there's like kick, snare, hi-hat 1 and 2, and the ride. And yeah, and a bass sound, two bass sounds on top, like there's one main bass here, all done with operator as well, and another one also operator. So just to make you see it's possible to do that and just use that one FM synth. Alright, I'm going to go into what I've done there and to demonstrate a couple of sounds here. Alright. So it's just like I put these on and off switches to the keyboard, A, S, D, F, G at the moment for these sounds, switch them on and off whenever I like. And I'm going to play the bass sounds on top. Some jump uppy, whatever, yeah, fun sound, just came to mind yesterday. Alright, bass sound number 1. So as you can see, I've got the kick sound here, and I separated all these sounds, you can see in the arrangement here, via using different velocities. Bit uncommon maybe, as it's, yeah, one may like to use different parts on the keyboard as well. You know, that's one way to do it. I thought, let's go and see if it works if I use certain velocity ranges. So as you can hear here, the kicks have a very low velocity, and that is because I just set this one to 0, velocity 0 at the lowest point, and it has a velocity range of 27 out of 127 possible velocity steps. So it means in the low velocity, so if I press the keyboard very softly, the kick will only play. So it means this way, and you see here, this is the lowest. For the snare drum, I put the lowest 31 with a range of 31, and then the next range with a low key, and the next range, and the next range. So I can compare them via playing different velocities. That's just a practical thing. Otherwise, I end up using different channels. In this case, it would be like 5 channels, which I had before. I had like an operator for each sound. Each sound had its own channel, and it's a bit, yeah, unpractical. It's better to have it in one instrument rack. This is the kick, I'll just solo that for the moment so we can hear it. The kick. So the first thing you want to do is like have a triangle wave. You can always have a sine wave as well, but in my case it's a triangle because there's a few more overtones in that triangle sound, and it has a bit more potential to get some bit more coloring to the sound. What I do here is I have a fairly short envelope, like an amplitude envelope, but very important, I have a pitch envelope here added to the sound. So if I switch off everything from here on, you will hear a sound that sounds like this. Nothing much to it. There's the processing on top, I have to admit. So if I switch everything off, as you can see, there's a fairly lot of processing on top. I mean, it varies from where you say, okay, that's how I like my kick sound. I mean, in the end of the day, sound like this. I have to turn it up a little bit. It's a bit low at the moment. No worries. Okay, so this is basically just a triangle being pitched with this pitch envelope to 100%, going from a first stage of the curve plus 48 semitones within a very short amount of time. It's not not even half a second. And the second stage was at 38 semitones. And as you can see, it's not a linear shape. It's like the lows, it's the max exponential curve that you can get for the because otherwise it will be too slow for what we need. So take this down, and as for the time, again, like quite short, 231 91 milliseconds for the pitch envelope. That makes it about 300 milliseconds for the pitch state, so to speak. And on top, I added another envelope, another oscillator, another operator with a sine wave just somewhere above this. So it's the fourth overtone, as you can see in the coarse settings here. And I just mix that with minus 22 dBs. Again, it depends how you like your sound in the end. So all these parameters are not fixed really, it's just like it matters if you like it as it is or not. I mean, it's always your ears that decide in the end. Yeah, so. But if you take a real kick, for example, there's always like something hitting something. Yeah, it's like you can hear the stick hit the skin, so to speak. So that part, these three operators here are for exactly that skin part. Yeah, so let me just add more to it. As you can hear, it sounds already much more like a real kick. And as you can see, I have increased the attack time here a little bit, because otherwise it will sound too hard. It will be, it's not the right sound. So this is a bit, it's experimenting with sound and what you hear in the end of the day. And you can set these courses here however you like them, but 12 in this case is an ideal spot. And last but not least, I have a noise oscillator, being included in this FM chain. As you see, I chose the chain number 1, so it means this is controlled by this one, and again by this one, and again by this one. So it's the maximum FM modulation that you can get out of the whole synth if you choose the chain 1. That's, by the way, I use that most of the time for most of the sounds. Again, the level has to be brought to a state where it's comfortable, where it sounds good. Same goes for the upper one. It just adds a little tickle to the whole thing. And we already have like a sound that sounds like a kick. So okay, it's just a matter of optimizing that sound in the end and of making it fit to the others. So let's get into the processing of the whole thing. As you can see, there's a couple of different processing things on here: EQs, overdrive, then there's a frequency shifter, and I'll tell you later why there's a frequency shifter in there, because it's not actually needed in the first place, but I'm going to tell you later about this. As reverb number 1, reverb number 2. These are two reverbs that work they work band selective, so to speak. It's not the kick drum. This is the processing that's actually for all the sounds, and if you look closely, it's it's outside this little box. So if I collapse this again, see, this is the processing that's on top of all the sounds. So these two EQ3s are not there to make any difference in the frequency shape of the whole thing. They're just there to make sound. It sounds weird, but as probably some of you know already, these high dB flanking equalizers, they do create certain unwanted artifacts in the audio signal. And if you set the frequencies to the right, if you set these wheels to the right frequencies, you can get something, let's say, interesting going on around these frequencies. What it creates is it shapes the transients. So the transients are going to be, different in a good way. So they're going to be changed towards, it's going to be a sound snappier, it's going to sound a little, that's what you get also if you're using vocoders for drum sounds, for example. You have that because you have so many bands, and between all these bands there's these frequencies, there's some glitching going on, and this is the exact thing that I wanted to have here, because without it sounds different. So then we have this low frequency reverb, then we have some upper mid-range thing as a second reverb. Just an adjusting EQ, another overdrive, and as you can see the dry wet here, it's just 11%, so it's not totally distorting the sound, it's just making it, fatten it up a little bit. Then I have used a vocoder, a fairly high amount of dry wet with enhancement on, and a noise carrier. So the sound is going to go through here. If I play the sound, so I take it fully up, it will only be noise. So this just adds noise to the signal, and again, many of you might have noticed adding noise to a signal can also be very interesting in terms of having it sound more complex, more divine somehow. It's all a taste thing. I could leave it as it is, but I think it just refines the sound even more. Then I have this glue compressor. It's just a nice compressor, not more, not less. It's just a nice working compressor, let's say. And then I have a 3-band processor that just enhances the higher frequencies a little bit. That's a downward compressor in this case. So everything that's below that threshold gets enhanced towards that level. It just brightens it up. It's a bit like an exciter or something. It sounds different, of course, but it's again a frequency. It's again a sound refining thing. Then another adjusting EQ. I use these quite a lot, and then another compressor. You could probably strip it down to an EQ, a compressor, and some sort of reverb that works in certain frequency bands. But I've done it all in the insert, as you can see. I haven't used the returns for that. I could have done it, and it's probably even a better way to work with it, but for now, just to make you people see that is all okay to use it in the insert chain. It just depends what you get out of it in the end. So that's the processing, and the kick itself has just this EQ, yeah, this overdrive here, and this frequency shifter. The frequency shifter folds the spectrum downwards or upwards. That means that you have, that you change the characteristics of your pitch, and of course the bass frequency gets changed. So let's listen to this again. You can see there's the noise from the vocoder here. You can also, like, if you increase the release time, it works a bit like a reverb. Some of you might notice that on some machine code tracks that in between we have one kick, like with an opened release. Anyway, this seemed to be quite reasonable down here at around 40 milliseconds. Okay, so let's get to the snare. So the snare is very similar to the kick, actually. As you can see, there actually was. I haven't used it in the end. I'll tell you why. A pitch envelope. Pitching, in this case, is a sine wave, and I've used the same FM chain here, the same algorithm, first one, and there's again another oscillator with a certain coarse amount, and another oscillator with a lower coarse amount, and in the end there is the, as you can see, the noise operator. So if I take these off, I will have like a reverberated, overdriven, EQ'd. As you can see, there's quite a harsh EQ. You'd cut all the low frequencies off. I didn't even use the compressor because it seemed fine without the compressor. Then a gate to just gate the tail of the snare a little bit, just in case I wanted a bit longer but still like gated. In most cases a gated snare is better for these sort of beats. Then the frequency in this overdrive a little higher than the other one that we've seen, and from this point on we have again the same processing that you've seen before. So this is only this, all these effects are for the snare, and yeah, the main difference is of course the frequency. The bass frequency itself is not down at where the kick would be much lower. But as you can see, I put a little emphasis on the bass frequency here using this low cut filter with 24 dBs cascade, which is quite steep. Okay, and important not to forget all these. And as you can see, there is a little increase, there's a longer increase phase of the attack. Because if I do that, you often get people that show snare drums like that. This is no snare drum, this is just something, but it's not a snare drum. So, because if you take the real snare drum, you always have, again, a stick hitting the skin, and then you have an increasing rattling of the snare button that makes the noise come in later. So there's first is the hit, so example the transient, and then there is the increasing, exploding, whatever noise sound. So that's why the longer attack, I mean long, we're not speaking long, is still just 103 milliseconds, but in drum design 103 milliseconds is very long. So, and that's why the sound, why it sounds more like a snare drum. You can again mix it a bit lower if you like, and you hear some tones because I didn't only use a noise, I used the whole chain and frequencies here. See, if I turn these knobs, changes the color of the whole sound. now I have, yeah, fucked up my snare, but it's not a big deal. I just find the right course settings again for these operators here. Yeah, that's mainly the snare. So we have kick and snare. Yeah, so this is all a lot of talking, and I don't know how much it really, what's the outcome of all the talking, but it is definitely, I cannot stress enough, it is so important that you listen to what you're doing all the time. You know, if you listen to a sound and you have no opinion about it, at what stage the sound is, if you don't know that it has to be more noise, or the noise has to be later, or the bass sound is too low, all these steps take a good listen, you know, and then just add, okay, the lows have to be cut. I haven't read it somewhere, it's just like I've heard it already, you know, so like it sounds a bit weird, but that's how you have to work. Always like see if that's still your snare drum, because as limited as this synth seems, I mean, you can do like two totally different sounding sounds that even fit together and represent kick and snare quite nicely. So it's not the ideal thing maybe, but it works. So let's go to the heads. The heads are so much easier because it is mainly a noise that I've just used a white noise here that gets a little filtering with a high pass filter, in this case 24 dB cascade, and somewhere in the middle, so it means if I switch that to solo, you can hear it's still a noise. But anyway, I like noise heads, so for me it doesn't have to be an FM sound, like a metally sound. It doesn't have to be. For this sort of sound, it's for this sort of tune, it's good to have these noise snares, I think, noise heads. Is the filter just adjusted right, and the time for the attacks and release, to soften it up a little bit, I took the attack time of the head just a little above 0, just to make it a bit softer, yeah, so that kick and snare dominate in terms of transients, and the heads play along with it. So that's my idea. The second head, as you can see, processing, there's just a little overdrive here, and then comes the usual chain that I've explained in the beginning, the processing of the whole drums. Because in the end it's similar to a real drum session or a drum rack or addictive drums. They have like the overheads, and you mix all the sounds, or the sounds that you want, into this overhead mix, and mixed, so the sounds actually, they profit from one processing in the end of the day. They have individual processing, but also something that goes on top of everything, and that was the idea here, to outside the box on the right, to have the processing that affects all the sounds in the drums. So okay, so the second, it's like an off head, you know, like 16th in between, and it has to be a bit lighter than the first one, so it's just a bit shorter. You can see the times, the decay time is a little less, and the filter is a bit more up, and to make it sounding less sharp, you can take down the resonance as well a little bit with this. The processing is the same, so it's a copy and paste in this case, just with the other velocity that I've shown you in the beginning, so that you can differentiate the sounds in the arrangement. And last but not least, we have this ride-ish sounding sound. Sounds a bit like a ride, but like a drum computer ride maybe. And the idea is, so I went from a normal head, but instead of just using the noise operator, like here you see the noise operator here, I went from a triangle and had different, again similar to kick and snare, the operator A has a noise, and the other ones are just other sine wave operators that are all using the first algorithm again. And here's again your ears. You have to decide whether it sounds right or not. So if you play the sound and you turn these courses here, you can always stop at a certain point and say, all right, that sounds better. This is like the old days with the DX7. No one really knew what the DX7 was doing, but then through working with the DX7, you got your sounds, the sounds that you wanted. And it's a bit like this as well here. What's important about this ride sound, apart from it sounding like a little FM sound, FM-ish sound more than the heads, because they profit from FM synthesis. They have this first operator here, the noise operator, is mixed in just with minus 24 dB. So that's, otherwise it would just be, you can take a white noise in the end. So just a little mix. And the other important thing is just have the sustain. Don't have it on 0. Otherwise you end up having another head, a more metallic sounding head in this case. Just take that up to minus whatever you like, minus 21 or something. And you have to keep in mind, this is minus 21 only because the processing calls for it as minus 21. Because if I switch the processing off, the sound won't be as pumped up, and you would have to go much higher with the sustain. So I'm working towards the processing at the moment because I've already done the processing before I did the ride sound. So that's maybe another important point. Okay, so much for now. If you want to see the whole video, please make sure you get the latest issue from Computer Music.
Download over 30 exclusive plugins. Get hundreds of pro-quality samples and power up your production skills with in-depth tutorials. We break it down for you step by step, and you'll see exactly how it's done in expert video guides and producer masterclass sessions with pro producers. Get all this and more with Computer Music Magazine every month on iPad and iPhone, PC and Mac, Android, and in print.